In 1974, Manhattan cabaret glam rock performer, pianist, songwriter Jobriath released his second of two albums, Creatures of the Street, and from it, the track Liten Up. Okay, we've got some whispering going on between two parties, indicating that there's somewhat of an interaction going on of some kind, maybe kind of nighttimey.
The worst boy, but the best girl.
Well, we've got quite a sort of like a funky interplay between selective bass drops and like that piano and drum.
Now, you don't have to be a hit to be a miss.
Yeah, I like the precision so far we got going between those like measures with the hi-hat and then.
You can thrill the whole wide world with just a kiss.
Well, that figure right there, that rising, like. Yeah, say what you will about him as a vocalist, he's quite the. He's got a way of kind of enunciating that's just quite I don't know, spicy. Let's see what the lyrics are going here. Oh yeah, listen, he makes the best girl, the worst boy, but the best girl. Okay, I imagine that we're talking about like a drag queen, and dealing with knowing that Jobriath was one of rock's first really flamboyantly, openly gay performers. Signed at a time when I guess label Elektra anyway thought that the world at the time was ready for like an out and out performer, and the label quickly, I guess, reneged on that, deal, and the head of Elektra later refused to even acknowledge the decision. A bit of a dark story, but that's a different topic for a different video. Anyway, so the character they're talking about is most likely well. Let's read a little bit more lyrics here. Lighten up. You don't have to be a hit to be a miss, lighten up. You can fill the whole wide world with just a kiss. Okay, now from the first two lines, I take it that the person is a biological male who does drag and who likes to dress up, as a female, and so basically isn't really accepted among men as a male, isn't really accepted by in circa 1974, but is quite a hit in like drag reviews and such, dressed up in like some kind of outlandish female persona. Yeah.
You never dance, and your face don't move around. But oh my dear.
For the record, Jobriath himself was not a drag queen, just kind of like a flamboyant glam rocker. But I imagine he interacted with, a lot of drag queens and such, being, in that culture, particularly in New York. I guess you could say his vocals are kind of sassy. And now here we got the earworm, the real hook of the track, that vocalizing. I like the harmonic elements that are going on of some of the backup vocals, like doing like the thirds or fifth or something like la 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 la. Yeah, I love how the drummer keeps on doing the alternating between these like down beats and then those like cymbal, those hi-hat moves. And that rising piano kind of bass structure right there gives us some kind of like harmonic melodic intricacy for the verses. I really like how the funk element is interacting with the kind of like cabaret uh, rock element for 1974 in particular. Like about maybe like a year ahead of the curve where funk and rock were really becoming integrated, like, across the spectrum, like on both sides of the Atlantic. Like funk and hard rock in particular. Oh, we're getting some kind of brass and giving it a slight, you could say, campy, kind of oompa-esque. Or, well, something that oftentimes, like oompa, like the interwar sounds of the clubs were being, particularly like 1920s, were being invoked in a lot of rock on this more campy, theatrical, like glam into the spectrum. I try and avoid using the word glam too much because it's kind of so obtuse and oftentimes meaningless in terms of defining actual musical styles. Yeah, a bit of a Dixieland element invoked in that. Let's catch up with the lyrics to see where they're going and where our character is taking us. Okay, you're so heavy you fairly shake the ground. You fairly shake the ground, eh? You never dance and your face don't move around. So I guess, well, yeah, because that's perhaps not this character's stock and trade dancing necessarily. But oh my dear, is your heart as heavy as your eyes, as your big blue eyes? Yeah, this person is basically kind of like a visual performer in many ways, not so much like, I guess, yeah, the dancing, yeah, probably can't really dance in like high, in big, stiletto platform heels or whatever, and big wigs and such. Yeah, you're so heavy you fairly shake the ground. Meaning perhaps maybe some of the weight of the individual and their presence, or maybe just the big costumes and such. La 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 la, lighten up, clean your act. So this person might also be somewhat vice-addled. Lighten up, you could float around as easy as a bird. Whiten up, you don't have to scream and shout now to be heard. Okay, so you could float around as easy as a bird, meaning that the person might, in stature, be very light, be very thin, and yet wear big wigs and costumes that could almost, like the hair itself, you would almost think could kind of catch the air, and whiten up. You don't have to scream and shout now to be heard. Meaning that this person might be prone to kind of fits, kind of emotional fits, might be very prone to kind of like diva-esque outbursts, in real life. But he's saying to him, now you don't really need to do that. You've got like your platform. You're a draw. Yeah. For all sake, her brand new sequin gown, but I'm not down. Is your heart as heavy as your eyes, I'm really curious as to who is providing backup here, because I know that the first album was kind of like had a whole bunch of people, some familiar names, like Peter Frampton appeared on it. I love this. Yeah, the main hook, the main earworm of the track. Yeah, I said that already, but the vocals, the harmonies have a certain kind of steaminess, kind of like a nighttime, almost kind of like red lighty type vibe. Visually, I'm almost like picturing kind of like street corner Manhattan, mid-70s nighttime with like red lights and white lights, casting like shine on everything amid the kind of griminess of the streets. Yeah, like the vibe of like the harmonizing. I'm almost picturing like people like street characters like outside the drag club, just like having a cigarette and just kind of like chatting it up and just into the vibe. You know, they're seeing their community.
Lighten up, heat up your hand. Lighten up.
Come to think of it, I do imagine that a lot of his lyrics probably dealt with this culture. Like I think of a track from the prior album, I'm a Man, yeah, a fragile man, Clara Bows and open toes I am, talking about being like a drag, being like maybe like a drag performer and cross-dresser who is telling the man that he loves that he's a man despite his appearance, but he could love another man with every bit as much, you know, passion and as a man would love as most men love women. Yeah, that being kind of the lines that are touched upon in the chorus of that track. Bit of that barroom piano there, adding a little bit of spice. It appears that none of the entries on it, none of the entries on Discogs, nor the Wikipedia page on this list the performer credits. Yeah, all tracks composed by Jobriath. Yeah. All I can say is that that's probably him giving us the piano and the lead vocals, of course, and he's got quite a reliable backing section, providing sort of a kind of like a funky, almost kind of like Dixielandish at times vibe. Oh, one of the vocalists, I guess one of the backing vocalists here, or maybe one of the guys that he was whispering with, was Chris Peterson, vocalist that appears on the track Your Mouth off Frank Zappa's Waka Jawaka album. I like the way the guitar is just the sustain of that like lead, kind of thin, but just kind of like searing over different, kind of like twanging right over different bars. Yeah, notice the like the downbeat on every third. Gives a kind of a jumpy type feel. Well, a lot of like dense interplay here. I love how the piano is just kind of doing its like arch once again. It's yeah, a lot of syncopation, a lot of like interplay. Let's I didn't quite finish the lyrics here. Glamour trash sashaying around the town for all to see her brand new sequin gown. But oh my dear, is your heart as heavy as your eyes, as your big blue eyes? So her eyes are very commanding, and assuming that they're probably heavily makeup, done up with, you know, fake eyelashes and all, and big eyeshadow in orbit, and the whole the drag, you know, look. Quite a visual line here. Glamour trash sashaying around the town. Oh, glamour trash, eh? So she probably, her look is probably just a whole compost of various secondhand gowns and everything, done up in a really campy way. Much more kind of almost theatricizing classic glamour and femininity in a much more caricaturized way than women, even like say going back to classic Hollywood, ever really did. But then again, that's kind of like one of the characteristics of drag. It's putting like Hollywood showbiz femininity into overdrive. Wow, there, just over and done in 4 minutes and 35 seconds. Well, at least without the commentary. Yeah, that was Jobriath with Liten Up off of his, spelled Liten, yeah, off his 1974 second and final album, Creatures of the Street. Let's hear another track from the album, the much more kind of swelling, rising, and vocalist hook-laden Ooh La La. Quite a like an echoey effect played there, applied there on the piano. It seems like double track piano with an echo on one of the tracks. And a pretty aggressive guitar coming in with like heavy downbeat.
Baby, you can have what you need. Honey, it's all yours for the one night.
Okay, a 3-chord progression here, centered in D sharp. Yeah.
Hello, how are you doing? You live by yourself. But I come and keep you company.
Oh, do you hear that kind of like a tremolo-ish type sound, kind of like snaking through there?
Let's see what you need. Maybe what I got. I could tell by the way you act, the way.
Once again, being really sassy and spicy with his vocals, kind of like really kind of top phraseology at times.
Would you be kind enough to thrill me with a line?
And then stretching out certain choice words. Yeah, I guess kind of just embodying kind of the sassy, kind of quick-witted, like urban, you know, gay guy of the time period.
I'm so glad I saw your ad in every glance you threw.
Wow, that was a somewhat spicy sounding line if I heard it correctly. Let's catch up with the lyrics. You want what you want, baby you can have what you need, honey it's all yours for just one night. Hello, how are you? Do you live by yourself? Could I come and keep you company? Let's see. Okay, so far it's quite obvious that the narrator is propositioning a subject who he's just met. And, you know, and by it's invoking, you know, 70s era, pre-AIDS, urban promiscuity. Yeah. What you need, maybe what I got. But I could tell by the way your eyes were turned away. Would you be kind enough to thrill me with a line? Even though I've heard the words, okay. Maybe what... Okay, so I'm almost sensing that there's a transaction going on here. Yeah.
So glad I got you back. Now what are you gonna do? So glad. Yeah, I'm so glad I saw your ad. Every glance through.
I'm so glad I saw your ad. Is that what I'm hearing here? I'm so glad I saw your ad in every glance you threw. I'm so glad I got you bad. Now what are you going to do? I saw your ad in every glance you threw. Okay, I am thinking that this is an interaction between a prostitute and a John. Because it seems like one party got kind of like a sixth sense that the person, just in the way that individual was looking at him, was his for a price. Yeah, going over that second stanza one more time. What you need, maybe what I got, but I could tell by the way your eyes were turned away. Would you be kind enough to thrill me with a line? Enough though I've heard the words before. Okay, would you be kind enough to throw me with a line? Meaning, this person is kind of part of what this person is willing to pay for is like sweet talk, romantic talk, sexy talk. What this person who might be paying for the interaction wants to feel that he's sexually desirable, that he's maybe not the kind of guy that would have to resort to paying for sex. Even though I've heard the words before. Okay, well, that kind of negates part of what I just said, but unless guy is like a repeat, this guy is like a habitual John who pays for sweet talk, sexy talk, and such.
I'm so glad I got you back. Now what are you gonna do?
Okay, you could say one of the standout earworms of the album. The way it just flares up, yeah, the ooh la la. Some of the same chords that we've been hearing, though, I think, like, or the same cadence anyway. Or the same chords, just kind of in a different order, like going B flat, N, F, C. Now we're getting into this like some really hearty, like kind of like scratchy scratch, like distorted guitar, gruff guitar, and thick, organ, thick like kind of like Hammond organ. Okay, that sound once again. That yeah.
I'm so glad I saw your ad, but every glance through.
I'm hearing some other percussions in yours, like sundry.
I'm so glad I got you back. Now what are you gonna do? I'm so glad.
Oh, that's quite a solo right there. Hear those like kind of like icy, like thick organ chords, just kind of like rising up, like highlighting the section, like lights, flaring.
I'm so glad I saw your ad, every glance through. I'm so glad I got you back. Now what are you gonna do?
Okay, I'm so glad I saw your ad in every you threw. Yeah, that is becoming kind of like a choice. That's become pretty much the operative couplet in this whole track. I guess it indicates like it's stressing silent communication. Yeah, I wonder who is participating in this. This is quite one of the swelling moments of the album. And he knew it as he was, putting this album together, or else I don't, because he reprises it at the end. Oh, now that organ is just really kind of like swelling up, but kind of like with all of its like icy, kind of high harmonic tones, and then. Yeah, you wonder what kind of part of the transaction or the interaction between the two characters in this moment is supposed to represent. Are they actually getting on? Because there is a dark side to those kind of interactions, especially in the 70s or really at any time. But. Is this like supposed to be kind of the moment of climax in the interaction for at least for the paying party anyway, or is it supposed to be something more horrific? let's finish up the lyrics since let's see. Okay. Yeah. What you? God bless you. Thank you. Hello. How are you? Do you live by yourself? Can I keep you company? Okay. Stuff that we've actually covered already. Yeah. And then the repeated lines. Yeah. I guess I've covered it, and so I can pretty much surmise that I called it in my interpretations of the song that I've already outlined. Okay. Oh, you're so pretty. Oh, look at this. Keep my tips. Okay. That's a little. I guess that's kind of ad libbed at the end there. That gives us. Yeah. That further confirms. Yeah. A pretty lengthy fade out to this. This being track 4 on side 1, and it was originally supposed to be part of a 3-parter along with the track Scumbag, and this is the reprise. Yeah, it was originally supposed to be part of a 3-part medley between Scumbag, the track that comes after it on side 1, and Dietrich Von Dyke, which comes 2 tracks before. I wonder what Von Dyke means. I looked that up, that name, the significance of that name right before, but it doesn't really seem to have anything. Immediate search has nothing. A brief history of music. Yeah. Everyone knows. I would imagine the significance of a name like Dietrich to say camp culture, drag culture, and perhaps gay art history significant. Given the kind of gay camp world's fixation on classic era Hollywood, and particularly a performer like Marlene Dietrich, who toyed with, whose roles tended to be campy, tended to be like showgirl, or sometimes roles that conflicted with or that challenged gender norms during that era, like the 1930s, 1920s, 30s. Well, slightly altered cadence for this, like more boom, 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 boom. Almost kind of like a falling down the stairs type, or kind of like a stomping down, like. Yeah, much more brisk and frenetic than in the song proper. And slightly even kind of like funkier in its own way. The kind of echoey piano has returned. I wonder if this is meant to kind of add to what happened already, if the plot takes a twist, even regardless of whether there are any lyrics involved. Wow, his voice is kind of flaring a bit amid like a crowd of voices, it sounds like, or a room of voices, and unfortunately I don't think the lyrics to this one are printed. Let me double check. Okay, now this is a section that we didn't have in the song proper. And it's building up to a real kind of epic climax to the album. I love how you get this, the complexity between the piano line and the movements of the bass underlying it, which give it more kind of like harmonic angularity and nuance, and just kind of an urgency. Oh, that tambourine, giving it sort of almost like a kind of quasi Motown feel. All night, all right. Yeah, this is definitely intended to serve as kind of like the epic blowout to the album, and I guess it might even have some thematic significance to like other part. It's been a while since I've listened to this whole album from front to back, but yeah, the way it does kind of just like come back at you following the penultimate track of the album, Gone Tomorrow. Wow, I like how the bass line's going da na 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 na. It's really circling around the key centers. I guess it was mostly a night of debauchery and enjoyment, at least for the. I'm not going to conclude that anything horrific happened. We don't have like that kind of tonality or chord choices to indicate that. Yeah, overall, I'm getting like a real kind of like drug-fueled, hedonistic 70s urban late night type kind of fun debauchery type vibe. Nothing too menacing. Yeah, Jobriath with Ooh La La in order, the song proper and the reprise of that, and before that, Liten Up off his 1974 album. Creatures of the Street, his second of two albums released on Elektra Records, and sadly he would kind of retire to just, I guess, a New York penthouse suite and become like a cabaret lounge performer for the rest of his years. Ultimately, being one of the first performers to succumb to the AIDS virus in the early 1980s. And very much, despite the promo he was given, like I guess even a New York Billboard, when during his brief signing to Elektra, he was largely not discussed in any, like back in the late in the 90s. I first learned about him via this book Cool Cats. That was published in 1982. I found a copy of it in 1994 and started just engrossing myself in its contents, and the name Jobriath was just like mentioned a couple times in this one chapter that was written by Paul Morley, which was just a lot of claptrap, really, to be quite honest. But I was more interested in the things that he name-checked in the performers and band than I was in really his own very subjective and you could say obtuse and none too musical interpretations of what the whole concept of glam was supposed to mean for his readers anyway. And Jobriath was just mentioned as a 70s performer that he kind of throws shade at. And anyway, I found the first Jobriath record just by chance, and it had an interesting cover, and me being just very curious about all things, 70s and kind of visual at the time, and I snapped that up, and then I just so lucky was, I guess, one of the few people by that point in time to stumble upon his second album, which had an even more striking cover of him facing straight at the camera with his very vulcanized features and rather ahead for its time hair and style and all. And I bought it not knowing of its rarity. I later sold it on eBay back in the early 2000s after I digitized my collection, and only to hear, and come to think of it, was probably the only copy I ever saw of it in record stores, and Although, if I look at it on Discogs, I guess that only, huh. It's hard to tell how much just by Discogs this is trading for in generally. The Elektra 1974 U.S. issue, it says highest sold $38. But I think I was seeing that same quote on. I was seeing roughly the same quote like on 2008 CD reissue, and then when I click on UK Elektra 1974, it says none ever sold, which would maybe indicate rarity. Or okay, one 2007 issue is going for 58. I don't know, but it's available nonetheless, regardless of whether you really need it at this point in time, kind of in physical kind of form. Anyway, yeah, Jobriath, Creatures of the Street, yeah, a talented, very unique, individualistic, charismatic performer who came and went too quickly. Supposedly on his tour that accompanied this album anyway, by the time this album came out, the label was already kind of just on the brink of letting go with him, and it was just in at the last few dates of his second and final tour that he was starting to really pull audiences over to the sides, to the point where I guess his very final gig commanded like four encores and standing ovations or such, but it was all just too little too late in his case, yeah. So a sad story that nonetheless produced two very fine albums that add that add dimension to the whole very kind of interesting yet at times incoherent story and of glam rock, if you can really define music with that term. To me, it's more kind of like a visual indicator of performers and maybe just a whole grab bag of different camp. But between like Jobriath, Bowie, Steve Harley, and Roxy, I just don't see enough musically in common with those acts to really call it like a cohesive musical descriptor. It's more just kind of like a whole just mishmash of camp from various eras, you know, particularly stretching back to the 1920s and 30s era. Yeah. And then you have like the glitter pop performers who are another bag entirely. I mean, what does that mean, really? Like hard rock, kind of pop metal with sort of girly backup vocals, like a la like Sweet or something, or T-Rex maybe. Yeah, it's anyway. For more rubies and sapphires from the Creatures of the Street album by Jobriath, see the directory of albums from 1974. Linked in the description below. Like and subscribe and follow me on social media, and leave a comment if there are any observations you have about the two tracks we just heard, the lyrics, the layers, yeah, most importantly, as well as the music and the overall flamboyant delivery of Jobriath. Yeah. And until next time, this is Zaragon, the world's most air-traveled tri-maximalist, signing off.